Why did I buy the fastest, most reliable, and possibly the most controversial Harley-Davidson that they ever made? Welcome back to Torque and Power. I appreciate you guys checking in. I love it. Keep up the comments. If you're new to this channel, we're all about motorcycles. We're in the garage per usual since it's Illinois and it's winter time. If you like Harleys, this is the channel for you. We got everything from touring to softails to V-Rod, name it. So if you guys like that, you certainly want to keep in tune because we're going to be doing some build series as well as coming up here in the future. But today, what were we talking about? We're talking about why did I buy this bike? And if you guys are new to this channel or unfamiliar, this is my 2017 V-Rod Muscle. And this was my entry bike, my gateway bike into Harley-Davidson, which is probably one of the most controversial bikes that Harley-Davidson ever made. They made it from 2002 to 2017, making this one the last year of it. It's pretty cool. I got to see it get built in Kansas City. At least I was there when they were building the final run of them. I don't think I saw this exact one, but I was there for the build, so that was a phenomenal thing. This bike is a 1250cc, 120 horsepower, 87 torque, 60-degree liquid-cooled motor, right? Which is way off base for Harley. If you know Harley, they're all about air-cooled. They've been doing now more liquid-cooled with the new Sportster S, which is a great bike too. I've done a video of that as well. If you guys want to see, I'll post a link up here. But this bike in its day was a beast, you know, and it still is a beast. But when it first came out in 2002, it was just radical, 115 horsepower at that time. The thing could smoke as a cruiser, just smoke so many different bikes. So it definitely changed the view of what Harley-Davidson was all about. So why did I buy this particular bike? Well, I came from sport bikes, and maybe you're the same, and maybe this is something you're thinking about, and this is how you got to this channel, and this is how you got to this video. But I came from sport bikes, riding nothing but sports bikes my whole life. Prior to that, you know, dirt bikes, all that stuff along the road. And this bike drew me in because my buddy had a V-Rod Muscle, and I had at my time one of my Ninjas, and we would go out driving, and he would keep with me. He wasn't passing me. He wasn't like, oh my God, he's right on me. But when I would crack the throttle, he would crack his, and he would be right there. It wasn't like any of the other Harleys that I had at the time, or not that I had at the time, but that my other friends had at the time. I mean, I'd open up that throttle and it was gone. I mean, they weren't even close. It was like they were neutral at that time. So this one really piqued my interest, plus the style of it. I mean, it was a sexy looking bike, and I never had a cruiser at the time. I was always bent over in that race format. And it's great, you want speed, all out speed, but if you want to have a combined thing of actual cruising and something you can go and do some touring on, plus it's got a lot of speed, plus it's got a great look to it, then I would really feel like this is the bike for you. And that's what drew me in, was its looks initially and its performance. To give you guys a little bit of idea of performance-wise, right? Because you know, you do get a lot of this controversy of how quick is actually the V-Rod. Now, and I'll get it from dealers all the time, sales guys, when they see me roll in on this one. They'll tell me they got something, a Fat Boy's faster, something along those lines. And when it comes down to it, they really haven't ridden the bikes, right? And when I first went up to the Milwaukee Rally up in Milwaukee, now it's called the Hometown Rally, they had these bikes demoed in 16 for the 17-year model. And I must have drove the bike 4 times. And the bike was it was crazy quick. Took me some time to get used to the 4 controls up here. It does take a little time to get used to, but I do find it to be a comfortable position. But like I said, it is a little different, so you gotta give it time to get used to. But went out riding on the bike, and I'll say about my 3rd time out, I was on a Night Rod Special. Oh, I'm sorry, I take it back. This guy was on a Night Rod Special, and I was on a Lowrider S110 at that time, right? Which was like the fastest Dyna stock out of the box. And we both lined up at the light, and we took off, and I was through first gear already, and I just went into 2nd gear when I heard him take off from behind me. And I heard his tire chirp, and by the time I went into 3rd, boom, he flew by me like I was standing still. And I was like, holy crap, that bike is fast. When you actually get that visual of how quick these bikes are. So that is what definitely sold it for me when it comes to performance-wise and the speed. It was cool. I like the idea that I could go on a bike like this and do some touring and some mini trips, and I could sit on this bike all day. My sport bike, I could not do that. There's just no way. My arms would get numb, I would get numb, it would just get tiring, the little bit of vibrations you start to feel, especially if you have a passenger, and you know what I'm talking about. If you've ridden a sport bike with a passenger and their weight is on you, it's hard. It's just hard to really enjoy the bike when you do have a passenger. But when you are solo, and it can be a blast, certainly if you're carving the turns and stuff like that, but you can't go distance with it. And to me, this was like that happy medium in between the two of, okay, I can go fast and keep up, plus I can cruise all day, plus this bike looks hot. And then what I came to find out, the next thing was getting into that Harley culture. And this bike got me into that Harley culture. And what I mean by that is you have over 700 and some dealers in the United States. You have the infrastructure of Harley-Davidson, which includes their rallies, all their events. Dealers are always having events. You have the community of people who ride other Harley-Davidsons or other cruiser motorcycles. You have all that, and that is you really can't go into a dealership and take account of that when you're buying the price tag for something like that, but it gets you into that community. And it's awesome because so many people are so nice, and there's always something to do, and there's rides that go on, and they're involved with charities, and they're involved with everything. And the rallies are so much fun, and they're just an absolute blast. So I wasn't ready for that side of it when I bought this bike, but that certainly helped. And in turn, I had to go buy a touring bike because I wanted to tour longer distance, and then we got a Softail over here as well. So it just cultivated all that. And Harley is just an unbelievable company when it comes to that stuff. And it's tough to understand until you're in it. But do yourself a favor, if you have that opportunity, go out and check out a rally and stuff like that. It is an absolute blast. So this bike, it was definitely had that cruiser look that I wanted. That's fast. Now, to give you a comparison on performance as well, kind of jumping back to that, if you had yourself like a Honda 600RR, now I know it's a 600cc to this 1250, I get that, but a 600RR, and that bike is about 400 pounds to this bike's 670 pounds, okay? Huge difference, right? The weight's nice when you go cruising and stuff because the wind doesn't really push you if you go on the highway or whatever it may be, but 400 pounds to 670 is huge. And when you look at those bikes and you look at the quarter mile, which is where this bike shines, and you look at a sport bike of a 600RR, they're pretty comparable. This bike I've seen do 11.1 in the quarter stock. They're usually low 11s is somewhere where it can be, and a 600RR is about there. It's about 10.5 to about 11. So that's awfully close, and their 0 to 60s are right there too, at about 3.5. And at the time, this was the fastest Harley-Davidson that they made. And I say at the time because now, they have the Livewire that came out. These are both the same for 0 to 60, about 3.5. But now that Sportster S, I've driven it. That, like I said, that bike is just freaking fast. But being 500 pounds to this 670, and it has more torque than this bike, it will be quicker without a question. And the quarter mile, I'm sure, is faster than this bike. But it is a different riding style. So you have to know that to get on the Sportster S. Yeah, you still got those forward controls, but it's more cramped. So if you're a bigger guy, like I'm 6'3", about 240, this bike fits me beautifully, where that Sportster S was tight on me. And what's nice is the seat is low to the ground as well. So if you are a shorter rider, this bike works out great for you. I see plenty of girls riding this bike. And I only say that just because they were shorter girls and they handled it beautifully. And they're just super quick on the bike because I've seen them at the drag racing and stuff like that. So I've seen all sorts of riders is really why I bring up the girls, guys, whatever it may be, shorter, taller. I see all riders are on this bike. It really fits a lot of people. It just hits that niche, that a lot of people are looking between cruiser and sport bike, kind of quick, plus Harley and fast and all that good stuff. Looks wise now, this bike really drew me in because that 240 rear tire, is that so freaking hot, that 240 rear tire. I love that big meat back there. You'll see guys push that out to like 260 on a stock rim, but 240 for that rear tire, it's awesome. It does make it a little bit more challenging in the turns, but just an awesome freaking look. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I like the muscle look in the back with the fender and the LEDs. So that styling was just awesome. Plus, you know, I like the whole rake of the bike. I mean, the rake, this is a 34-degree rake of the bike to give it kind of that longer wheelbase. And it really sets that nice profile. And also this exposed frame. And that's stuff that you start to notice with Harley-Davidson as opposed to other cruiser bikes. There certainly is faster cruiser bikes out there. I'm not saying there isn't. Ducati's got faster ones. People like to quote the V-Max. I understand that. There's faster bikes, but I think where you lose out on some of those bikes, I'm not trying to insult anyone if you really like the way the bike looks, but I think it's so difficult to combine the styling aspect to it, to the power aspect, to the functionality aspect. And I think Harley nailed it when it came to this bike. And if you've been riding for a few years, you certainly understand what I'm talking about. It's tough to nail all those together. You know, it's already hard enough to try to get the fastest bike, but then try to get everything else. It's very difficult. No, it's not the fastest cruiser, but it's certainly up there. But I think by the time the style and the function of this bike, to me, it's number one, without a question. And that's why this bike has formed such a cult across the world. Whether you go to Europe, Australia, name it, here in America, it's just got a cult following. But anyways, it was this drag kind of layout that I really liked. I thought the approach of it was great with the inverted forks. You know, that's nice to see that they're doing the performance-wise with the inverted forks on this bike. It gives the suspension just a whole nother feel as opposed to the older models. I could feel it rebound faster. You can improve them even more by replacing the internals, and the rear shocks here as well are a little bit small. You could certainly upgrade those, but I like them for the rides I do. I think they're perfectly fine. The bike's got Brembo brakes, 2 disc in the front, single disc in the rear. You can't beat that. I mean, Brembo is just one of the top known names, so how do you beat Brembo? So I think that's absolutely fantastic as well. And like I was saying before, this tubular frame, which is a hydroformed frame, which at the time, that was revolutionary. So to have an exposed frame, this is the only Harley, I don't know if you know this, but this is the only Harley-Davidson that has an exposed frame like this. Rest of them usually got the backbones and they're hidden. So to have an exposed frame, I mean, it looks great. I mean, the frame is artwork along with the bike. And when you look at it, that's what I really picture this bike is rolling artwork. And even the radiator, I mean, you look at a bike like this, it needs the liquid cooled for the motor, but the radiator, typically motorcycles that have a radiator, they're slapped on. Go out there and take a look at them. People just slap them on, they're functional, but there they are, in your face, gaudy. And once you can start to appreciate a radiator that's hidden like this and has nice paint work that's also functional to draw in more air, it's tough to go back because it's such a pretty thing, and you know the development that Harley had to put into this in order to make this happen. And it's just a gorgeous piece. And if you have a chance, go look at the documentary on Discovery Channel. I'll try to put a link in for that as well. Amazing documentary of Willie G and their whole styling team and engineering team of building this bike. And oh my God, will you get an appreciation for what they had to go through. And one of the guys in there, Frank Savage, who I've met several times, he is a great guy, and he was one of the lead designers with Willie on this. An amazing man. And talking with him about it, it's just so cool feeling his passion of what the company was going through at that time to make a whole ground up brand new bike, which, you know, as you know, but watch that video. It is freaking awesome. I also like the kind of the cult that you get with this bike too. Some people dislike it within the Harley community because it's not a touring bike. That's fine, that's cool. You know, whatever. Most of them haven't driven the bike, which is fine. I got a touring bike too, so whatever. I mean, some people just want to diss it because it's not a touring bike in Harley, but that's fine. But on the flip side of that, you get the positive of the people who have driven it, who are interested. There's so many times I've been to rallies or events or whatever, or I'm with my brother and he's got one too. He's got a Night Rod Special in yellow and 17 as well. And we'll park it, and you see people looking at it all the time. So I know people always are curious about the bike. I think they really like the shape of it. It looks like it's going 1,000,000 miles an hour standing still. So you always get that and people asking you questions about it and whatnot. But that's always cool. And it was always special too, because when I did buy this bike, my brother bought a 17 as well, like you just heard me say. And he has a Corona Yellow Night Rod Special. So there's nothing cooler than buying a motorcycle with your brother. In case any of you get an opportunity to do that, to buy a bike with your sibling or your friend or whatever it may be. It's a great experience, especially the way Harley does it. You know, having you ring the bell and doing a big congratulations. And then when you're there with your brother doing it, I mean, you're just like top of the world when it comes to it. So another couple things that I really liked about the bike, because I do a lot of research when it comes to these things, was the reliability of this bike. And the reliability of this bike is just amazing. You get a lot of people grief of Harley, the reliability of other bikes and older ones. Even of the Milwaukee 8 that I have over there, but I've had zero issues with my Street Glide Special. It's had all sorts of stuff where they talk about the sumping and this and that. Like I said, I've had no problems with it at all. But on this bike, it's only got a 1-hole for the oil and the transmission, as opposed to other Harleys that does the 3-hole, right? So this one 1-hole does the engine and the trans. 5 quarts of oil makes it extremely easy. This engine, like I said before, is bulletproof. Now and then you're supposed to check after X amount of miles, I forgot what it is the shimming for the valves. More time than not, everything is in alignment the way it should be, and you don't even need to shim it. So the bike, you just can't break it. It is just a phenomenal bike. When they did the testing on this bike in production-wise, and Porsche was doing it, there was a Dusseldorf test. And I hope I'm pronouncing it right, so Dusseldorf. So that's what Porsche does with their cars, is they have this extreme road that's testing from, I believe, one facility to another. And basically it has every possible up, down, twist, incline, elevation, whatever it may be, that is extremely hard on the motor. And if it can make it, it's saying, okay, it's got the reliability. It could do something this hard. We don't have to worry about it for the general public. And this motor was able to do it. And the rumor is that it actually got through it twice. Whether that's true or not, I could believe it, considering all the stuff I read about just how freaking, how bulletproof that this bike actually is. And guys beat on this bike. This bike can smoke first, second, and even third throughout the gears. I mean, easily it can smoke those things. And I've seen guys beat on this bike something silly, and they don't have a problem when it comes to it. So it is just a very strong, reliable bike. And I know I touched a little bit on the Porsche. I know that's another thing that a lot of guys get into, is that, oh, Porsche made it. It's Porsche and Harley helped co-develop this motor so it could be street driven, is all it comes down to at all. Harley had the motor, it was their race motor. They went with Porsche because they're so busy doing other projects to help make this thing so they could put it into a production bike and make it reliable. And that's what Porsche is known for, are these kind of structures. And that was their co-engineering development between the two. But I always find that funny. I just had to kind of throw that out there. So many people get so caught up with whether it's Harley or whether it's Porsche and back and forth. So that's pretty much it. I mean, that's why I bought this bike. It was, like I said, it's a great cross between where I came from sport bikes, wanting to get into cruisers. The Harley culture is absolutely amazing, so it gets you into that. It is quick, it is comfortable, it has a nice note to it. The bike is sexy, whether it's coming or going, it looks awesome. I absolutely love it. It's reliable as can be. It's just beautiful. I thought the styling, everything from the gauges to the body to the fenders to name it, the wheels, they nailed it when it came to this. So big kudos to Willie and Frank, if you're out there listening. He's an awesome guy. They just did, and everyone else and the rest of the team, they just did such a kick-ass job when it comes to this bike. So if you're interested in it, go out, take a little test drive on this thing. I think you will be convinced as well this bike is just freaking kick-ass. So appreciate you guys checking in, the Torque and Power. Hit that subscribe button. And until the next video, keep both wheels down.